So what we're going to do to start with is we're going to make the crumble then and set it to one side. So this is no different than we did for the apple crumble really. So we're going to add a few oats to it, and we're going to add a little bit of parmesan to make it savoury. Otherwise it's the butter and the flour. So I'm just going to weigh that out now and make the crumble. So let's see, we've got 150 of plain flour.
Sharon, sorry, how many people is this for? I must stop it.
Now, I am making, so I'm kind of hoping that mine's all going to fit in, I suppose, similar to like a lasagna dish or something, maybe a little bit deeper. If you had a little bit deeper than that, might be good.
Okay.
I feel that it's going to be about like 4 or 5 kind of.
Okay.
There's only 300 grams. The rough recipe would be 300 grams of chicken and 300 grams of vegetables, but I think with the mushrooms, so you're making up whatever, you know, it doesn't have to be leeks and mushrooms, you know, you could have any vegetables there with this type of thing, but we're going to stick with leeks and mushrooms today. So generally speaking, it's 300 of your meat and 300 of your veg. Okay. So we'll get this flour in the bowl and get the butter in. So 150 of the flour, and I will actually just put that in the sieve. If you are cooking along, you could have your kettle boiled up for your stock so that it's maybe cooling down a wee bit before we mix it with the milk, because instead of making a sort of creamy sauce just with milk, I'm doing it with half milk and half stock, so it just makes it a wee bit lighter, and hopefully all being well, it will still be a nice creamy sauce. So there goes our flour, and then just the cubed butter again. If you can have the butter cold for making a crumble, it's better. And it's usually with any sort of crumble like this, you're looking at half the fat to the flour. So 75 grams. There's a rookie mistake there. Always check your scales are back at 0. Okay.
Why is it better for the butter to be cold, Sharon?
Well, it for rubbing it in and mixing it in to make like a breadcrumby type texture with the flour, it works better for it to be nice and firm.
Yeah, suppose if it was soft, it wouldn't.
If it's too soft, you find that it won't rub in just as well, you know, and give you the consistency that you're looking for. I have to say, now mine's not actually as cold as I would like it, so I can maybe prove that point in a minute for you.
Right.
So let's see. There's 25. Ideally, you would have that cut up into dice. So again, that makes it a little bit easier to work with. So yeah, we're just going to have the crumble set to one side, and then we'll prep the chicken and the veg. So while the chicken's on cooking, we'll prep the veg, and then really it's all in the one pot. We'll make the sauce separately. Now you can make the sauce in the pot, you know, that the chicken and the veg are in. You can just add your butter and your flour to that and try to thicken it up in the pot, but I'm just going to try and do it separately on this occasion. Although I was looking for a whisk there and I can't seem to put my hand to one, so luckily you don't get to taste mine. If it's all lumpy at the end, then you can better for it to be nice and smooth. So we've got our, and that's really it. We're just going to work this through. You maybe can't see from there actually if I move all my stuff out of the way. So we're just rubbing it through with our fingertips and just working the flour and the butter. Different techniques. Some people go in like that and rub it, or I sort of lift it up and just rub it together. So we're trying to get a bread crummy like texture And when we have that, then we'll add in our oats and our Parmesan cheese to make it a little bit savoury. So did anyone else try the recipe then from last week in the meantime, or?
Well, do you mean passing the recipe on?
Well, just wondering, did anyone else that was on last week, you know, that
oh, right, okay, yeah,
try it or not?
If you want to unmute yourself, if you want to speak, go on ahead. I don't know.
It was just
Yeah, I made it, Sharon, the next day, and it was really, really lovely.
Oh, good. Oh, that's great.
But it made, I must have been using a smaller bowl to you, because it actually made two. So we only had one and put one in the freezer. But I had doubled the recipe.
I think, yes, to be honest, I noticed that in fact, was it the vegetarian one or the meat one?
The meat one.
The meat one. It does actually. I even noticed that last week, and I think I said towards the end, goodness, like we'd only used half an onion and half a carrot and half a celery stick, and in fact, you know, it had really thickened up towards the end. So it does actually make maybe a little bit more than that, you know, when you double it, definitely. So you've been eating it all week too.
No, we cleared it in 2 days.
Oh, it doesn't be long going in, you know. It's hard to get these things just right, you know, but
it's good comfort food, but that's the thing.
Well, that's it too. Right, that's my
cottage pie to start with, an apple crumble to finish. Perfect food.
winter food. That's the crumble at the consistency that I would like. So I'm not sure if we can see that up close or not. So I don't want it too fine because I don't want it floury. So porridge oats, I think, what had I put down for the porridge oats then? 50 grams. I'm just going to take a wee guess. No, I'll do the right thing and weigh it out. Yeah, it's about a handful. So 50 grams. I sort of do these things and then I don't, you know, I have to go back and check them. So about a handful of the oats and just loosely mix that in. It's just going to add a wee bit of crunchy texture to it. And put the nutrient value up as well of it. So I'm just going to get my hands a wee clean and then we'll grate some Parmesan or cheddar into that. And again, about 50 grams. Well, I can tell by looking at my Parmesan that that's about all I have left there. So just nice fine grater. You can add a little bit of salt and pepper to the crumble as well if you want. Parmesan is nice and salty though, so cheddar wouldn't be just as salty. So if you're using cheddar, maybe add a wee bit of salt and pepper as well. Go. Might be a wee tiny bit left there that I could just put over the top of it just at the end. So that's our crumble ready. So I'm just going to set that to the side. So I have my stock ready then as well, just in the measuring jug, and it's about 300 ml of that. So I'll give that, I had a wee chicken stock cube there. And I'm just going to mix that in. Now, lots of stock cubes are very different. This one here is the Callow organic one. And it's like a gluten-free, low-salt one as well. So it really does depend what your stock is. This wouldn't be very overpowering at all. So you do need to check for seasoning then, you know, later on. But if you use the likes of Knorr or something, they can be quite salty. So it does depend, you know, recipe-wise, what you put seasoning later on, you know, So I've got my stock sort of ready for the sauce later. And I'm just going to get the chicken. So I've a chopping board for my leeks and my mushrooms here, and a chopping board for my chicken. And I have some little mini breast fillets. I'm using fillets for this. You could use chicken thighs for this as well, which is a cheaper cut of meat, and it's quite tasty as well, actually, but can be a bit of work if you buy them on the bone. But you can buy them now skinless and boneless as well, so that would actually be quite a good one for this. It'd be nice and flavoursome.
Sharon, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed how much stock do you need?
It was 300 of
300.
stock, and then we'll add 300 of milk to that, Louise. So if your stock is boiled and all, I'm letting it cool down for a little while. I don't actually want that boiling whenever we go to mix it in with the butter and flour to sort of make a roux. So just...
So 300 of the stock, and is there milk going into that now or not?
Not at the
No.
minute,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
One later. So let the stock cool down a little bit.
Okay.
It'll be good if it's warm, you know, but not... So we're just going to cut these into chunks. That's basically what we're going to do. Cut them into, I suppose they're about, what would that be? 4 or 5 centimetres, maybe. Maybe not even. So of course with these wee mini fillets, it's quite not much work in the cutting there at all. But again, sometimes for these nice casserole type things, you know, those chicken thighs or leftover chicken, roasting up a big chicken, I always think there's just so much more flavour and texture, you know, if you just pull the meat off a cooked chicken.
Sharon, if you are going to use chicken that's left over from a roast chicken,
Yeah.
how much would you use? The weight would be different.
It's still going to be in and around 300 grams. Again, you know, it's up to you. You know, it probably wouldn't be. It would take most of the meat off a cooked chicken, to be honest. You know, I would say if you stick in and around the 300 gram mark, 350. There's not a big difference in the weight between the raw chicken and the cooked. But you'll know yourself whenever you see it. I would say if you had a small cooked chicken, you know, if you took the breasts off it even and then picked the rest of it, you've the legs, the wings, the thighs, you know, there would be enough meat in that. And my board's a wee bit sleepy there tonight, so just seeing if there's any of those wee bits that we don't really like to get in chicken. Cut those out. I know in a couple of weeks, I think I test ran the recipe last night actually. There's one with salmon and pesto and peas.
Oh yes,
and
yes.
like that. Yes, did a wee test run on it. Actually, my daughter made a TikTok video of me, so we're getting...
Oh, lovely. Very
We're
good.
coming up to... we're coming up to speed with these things, so...
Well, TikTok is a thing these days, isn't it?
Oh, it's a big thing, yeah. So there's a 30-second video of the recipe. That's how fast they like things these days.
Oh, yeah.
But it was really nice. It really came out well. So
And where can we view this TikTok video?
I don't think anybody. I'm not letting it out.
I think it should go up on our nerve on YouTube.
We'll see. We'll see. So there's our chicken's ready for the hob then. So I'm just going to dispose of this. A golden retriever sitting, watching very patiently here to see if there's
Any scraps?
coming our way. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's Okay, so I'm going to move us over then to I'll move us over to the cooker here. And so we're just going to get the pan nice and hot here. So I'm going to make the sauce in a separate saucepan. If you have a non-stick one for making the sauce, it's going to be a lot better, a lot easier on the dishes anyway. Making a kind of roux type sauce in a pot like this, it's going to, you know, it's harder to clean, that's all. So I'm going to get the pan nice and hot. I am going to put a little bit of oil in it. Not much, it is a non-stick pan, but it's just to get the chicken nice and brown. So, but as soon as we get this on to cook, and I've got my my little tongs just to turn them over halfway. Now I had said about using thyme. Thyme goes really, really well in this recipe. Now, consequently, I actually wasn't able to get some. I have some thyme growing in the garden, but it wasn't just enough. It had gone to flower and stuff. It's a wee bit late for it. But I do have flat leaf parsley, so it goes just as well. And of course, if you don't have thyme or parsley, just some mixed herbs from the cupboard, dried mixed herbs, you know. So we're just going to seal this meat really before. So then it goes. Right, it's quick enough. To get going, but I think we'll leave it there.
Darn, Patricia has just put a wee chat in. God love her. She's just joined and she's viewing from her hospital bed. She broke her leg badly 3 weeks ago. And she's
no!
rehab, learning to walk again. So she's enjoying it.
Goodness, so you've joined us from hospital tonight. Oh my goodness, great. Well done, for you.
I can see her there.
Terrible.
God love her.
And you're having to watch me in the kitchen cooking.
No, I want to watch you.
Oh, that's
Great.
good. No, you're not missing any soaps.
No, this is more important, and I really appreciate it.
That's great, Patricia.
That's great. So look, I'm going to get my vegetables chopped now.
At the moment,
I'm going to turn that down just a tiny bit over here. Well, I'll take you back here just to get it all turned over. So we'll get the chicken quickly turned over to the other side. Quite small little bits here. And it's getting nicely sealed. And then we'll turn it down. So Louise, if you're keeping up okay, just get that chicken a wee turn before we start with our veg. So I'm looking forward to the slow cooker one as well, actually, because I don't own a slow cooker, so I have borrowed my sister's slow cooker to practice some slow cooker recipes. But I'm always hearing other people talk about how nice it is to come home to slow
That's
cooker.
a new one, Sharon, isn't it? That was a late one that was changed to slow cooker, wasn't it?
What's that now, Paul? Sorry.
Yeah, I think it wasn't originally on the schedule, the slow cooker one. Wasn't that
Yes,
right?
I think somebody requested it maybe.
Yeah.
So
And there's a lot of people do use slow cookers nowadays.
Yes,
Is that
yes.
interesting? Yeah.
I haven't done so as yet, but then the house I lived in before, I had a big old range cooker, like a solid fuel range cooker, and sometimes you could happily go out and leave a pot on it bubbling sort of way, which was a similar thing, just not electric, you know. So I'm just going to bring the...
I had asked for it, Sharon. I'd put it in.
Oh yes, Louise. Well, thank you, because we've changed it to slow cooker because of you.
Oh, was that you put that in, Louise?
Yeah, I have a slow cooker and I do love using it, but I'm very limited in what I can make in it. I actually made a lovely beef curry yesterday in it and it was gorgeous. I think it was from, I just Googled it, it was the Good Food, but it was very nice now. Yeah.
Okay, so I think I was going to go with pork maybe for a wee change, because some of our recipes have had beef and some of them have had chicken in that. So I was going to go with something pork, and maybe, of course, I usually always do something veggie.
Yeah.
The veggie alternative to this one is just to use corn pieces, you know, the chicken corn pieces. If you were doing another recipe, I'm just going to look for my. You're maybe glad we're not doing two versions tonight, Louise. Look for my bigger knife here that's gone missing, and we're going to get these leeks.
I'm very glad there's only one recipe tonight, although I am still making doubles.
No, sure. Let's get my, my favourite knife here for chopping. So what we're going to do for the leeks then is we're going to get a bowl of water. So it can be cold water, it can be a little bit warm too if the leeks are very dirty. And actually I bought leeks for this, and my husband wasn't too pleased because we have loads of leeks in the garden at the minute and we should have went and lifted them. The garden's just not at home now. So I bought a couple of leeks, but what I'm going to do, usually the leeks are very mucky, especially if they're homegrown. So I'm going to chop the leek first and dunk it in the water. So I'm just going to top and tail it. And so my sister and I used to own a soup company. So we used to have to chop a lot of leeks, to say the least. So this was definitely the best way of ensuring that no wee bits of dirt went in the soup. So, and also a much safer way to cut the leeks too, because leeks are very slippery, and most of our injuries over the years for cutting ourselves were from leeks. So just going to take, well, that wee one's okay.
Please be careful, Sharon.
No. No, these are fine. So just a good sharp knife where you see some of the wee outer bits are a bit slippy. Take those off. Good sharp knife. And we're just going to cut them into chunks, but I do think it's better to cut them in half first so that you can get any, not in rounds. So I've just cut them like so. And just going to pop them into the water. So they're going to separate in there, and we're just going to let the water work its magic. So I've still the chicken on there, but I turned it down a little bit. So I've got 2 large leeks here. I think it comes to a little more than 150 grams, but that's okay. You know, leeks really reduce down anyway. So it's just a rough guide with the 300 of meat and 300 of veg. So it is quite big. So you're better really to turn them around. Even a serrated edge knife, if your knife's not too sharp, if you had a wee serrated edge knife for doing leeks so that the knife doesn't slip. So going to give them a dunk in there and then get our mushrooms. Now mushrooms, that's a personal choice. I don't wash mushrooms in water. I rub off any excess if there's any dirt on them. There rarely is these days. But I try not to wash them in water, but some people prefer to give them a rinse in water. I just wouldn't leave them sitting around in the water too much. So that's the leeks in. Now, what I want to do is just give them a swirl around and separate them a little bit, so that, because the little hidden bits of dirt, like I say, sometimes these ones that you buy in the shops, you're usually fine, there's barely a, but if you come from the garden, well, you find more than wee bits of dirt in there, so you definitely want everything out, and that will just sink to the bottom of that. So we'll just let it soak for a little minute, and that's a really good way to wash the leeks. So I'm just going to go and check on the chicken here, because I know it's well sealed now. Yeah, it's nicely browned. Okay, so I'm going to bring the leeks over there, and we're going to go ahead and pop the leeks in now. So as you can see there, the chicken's got nicely browned in the pot, and I'm going to go ahead and put the leeks in, and we'll just prep the mushrooms quickly after we've got the leeks in. So chicken well sorted, and then so once you've given your leeks a good rinse in the bowl, from there all you need to do is just lift them out like so. You don't need to drain them in the colander or the sieve or anything like that. Nice smell coming out. So really all I'm left with at the bottom of that bowl is any wee bits of dirt that might have come out of it, and I can just dispose of that. So I'll just let the leeks, I've got this on low now, so I don't need it up high anymore. I've got it on low. And we're just going to let those leeks soften down in that while we get our mushrooms ready, and then we'll make our sauce. I'm going to keep the mushrooms quite chunky for this, so and all I'm going to do is actually take off just that little bit, that little end there. I'm not going to take any, I'm going to keep the rest of the stock on, and I'm going to quarter these. And again, I think for mushrooms there too, there's maybe 200 grams actually. So the recipe does say 150, but I sort of know that we love our veg, so I've just thrown an extra couple in. So I'm really only trimming the end of the stalk and quartering them.
Can I just interrupt and say to anybody, if you have a question or anything for Sharon, just unmute yourselves and ask and talk away, okay? Or put it in the chat, whatever you like.
Yes, do ask me anything. It doesn't even have to be about mushrooms or food or anything.
Very good.
Ask me anything. There we go. So there's our mushrooms. We'll pop those in, and then I'll just bring the parsley we're going to put in a little bit later. So there we go.
Sharon, what else could you put in as an alternative to leeks and mushrooms?
Well, really you can, I mean, I've seen a few recipes for something similar with even the likes of carrots and parsnips and sweet potatoes, root vegetables actually. So like a chunky veg type of thing. This would cook a lot quicker though. If I was doing the likes of maybe carrots or parsnips or sweet potatoes, I would maybe steam those for a little while first before putting them in, with the chicken. I think the leeks and the mushrooms cook at a certain rate that I think works well together. But with those more root vegetables, the only thing that would be different was just the cooking time with them,
It is quite chunky looking, isn't it?
It is at the minute, isn't it? I'm kind of thinking I should have had a bigger pot here. But as we all know, the leeks and the mushrooms are going to reduce down.
There's a question here from Eve. Sharon, she said her apple crumble sunk in the dish when she took it out of the oven. And she just wants to know, when you have time, perhaps you could let me know what she did wrong.
I have no idea now. Sunk as in dipped down a little, like it. I mean, it does reduce down after time, a crumble from it coming out of the oven, but it shouldn't do so on coming out of the oven, if you know what I mean. Unless it was in maybe for a little bit long, that the apples maybe overcooked a little bit in it. Would that be a possibility? Was it in quite long, or?
I don't know, Eve, if you want to say something. I don't know.
No, I'm not sure. Now, it could be just that maybe if the apples go in, you know, we didn't cook them first. So when they go in like that, of course, they...
she said here she thinks it might have been in a bit too long.
If it was in a bit long, the apples obviously lose their consistency whenever you put them in that way. So if you were putting in cooked apples, it's likely to come out nearly just the same because they've already reduced down before you put them in. But if you're putting them in raw, then they're going to lose a wee bit of their...
Yeah, I suppose.
Their shape and everything, you know, as well, if they're in for a long time, or maybe a lot of liquid maybe was produced that made them shrink down even further, you know. Okay, we're going to leave that to do its work, and then we're going to make the roux now. So we're going to have butter, flour, and the stock and milk are going to go in together. Now I'm going to move it over to this one. I just know with my cooker that we have one that is really, really high up, a really high temperature, and the other one pretty rubbish. So,
Sharon, can I ask a question now?
sure.
Yeah, you see, sometimes if I'm making a white sauce, I just use corn flour and milk. Can you do that, or?
So you would heat the milk up first and then thicken it with the corn flour.
Can you do it just like, is that okay to do it like that? For this? You
could, I think. I mean, or is that what you're going to do? Because we certainly know the answer then if you if you do it that way.
Well, I was about to, but now I'm changing my mind. I think I'll just do it your way.
I was just going to do this by way of showing the right
way
to make the sauce. But you could do that with corn flour. The only thing with corn flour is you just need to be very careful with it. So just mixing up a little bit first, you know, in a teacup or something, with a little bit of cold water, and then adding it very cautiously because it can really over thicken something if you do too much of it.
I'll just do it your way. So,
well, hopefully this will work then. So, so I'm going to get the butter. Now you can measure out the butter and the flour. Usually comes to around a big heaped tablespoon would be the what I'm going to use here. So I'm just going to get that now. And we're going to melt
of the butter.
So the butter then we are looking at, let's see, 40 grams. 40 grams is really just like a big heaped tablespoon. I'm just going to make sure that I'm totally right with that here. Yeah, it's exactly that. So it's just a big tablespoon really. And it's usually equal amount of plain flour then. So I've put that in to melt first, but we don't add the flour until the butter is melted. So I suppose this would be the same, this bechamel type sauce for lasagnas and things like that. Now, like I say, if I had a much bigger pot, which I could do it, but what you can do is you can add the butter here, sprinkle the flour over, keep stirring and add your liquid all to the vegetables. But I just find that making the sauce separately just gives you that chance to even out any problems there might be with the sauce before it's mixed in with all your vegetables, if you know what I mean. So butter's just melting here. You could probably put your oven on actually now to preheat. And again, just around, maybe around 160 or so. We want the crumble to go crispy, but we'll want it, this is going to be cooked when it goes in. So really what we're doing is just waiting on the crumble. You know, there's nothing in here that needs cooking in the oven. So maybe 160, between 160 and 180, depending on your own oven and how hot that is. So I've slowly melted this now. I'm going to get the flour and pop it in, and we're just going to keep stirring that. So we do need to stay beside our pot here. So what I'm going to do is have my stock ready, and I'm going to add my milk now to it.
Sorry, Sharon, have you put the flour in yet?
I haven't put the flour in yet. I'm just getting my liquid ready before I put the flour in. So
okay.
I'm just getting. I'm just going to use that almond milk for a wee change, but I like that in my breakfast, and there's not enough left, so I'm just going to go back to. So I've made that up to 600.
600 of milk?
No, made it up to 600, so 300 of stock,
right, okay.
300 of milk. Now my butter's melted. It's not sizzling. I don't want it to sizzle really. And again, 40 grams of flour is about, it's about 2 big tablespoons there. Not 2 big tablespoons, 2 tablespoons. It's not. So it's the same amount. So we're just going to stir that now. So hopefully, if you can see that, it's starting to thicken. Now, once that starts to thicken like that, we want to keep that stirring. That's actually cooking. We need it to cook a little bit on a low heat though, low heat. Because you should be able to make this sauce without, because I can't find my whisk, I'm hoping we can make this sauce without a whisk. If you do this bit right. So you've got your butter and your flour, and it's coming nice and smooth, but it's thickening up a little bit. So like I say, you can see how a non-stick pan would actually be great for this. So I'm gonna let it cook another minute or two there as the butter and the flour before I start to slowly add the stock to it. So we want that sizzling a wee bit actually. Yeah, it should be sizzling a little bit in the bottom of the pan there. But then I'm going to keep it nice and low as I add the liquid. So we're just going to add it a little bit at a time and keep mixing. So now it's already getting quite thick and lumpy, so here's where we have to start working. Now if this doesn't go smooth for me, I'm just going to use the hand blender at the end. So we really want to keep stirring here. And you do want to keep it on the heat at the same time. I'm looking at my pear leeks and mushrooms now, thinking they need a wee stir, but I'm hard scared to take my hands off this, so I'll keep going.
You need 2 pairs of hands, Sharon.
That's what I need. I've always said that, you know. I say that daily. So there, as that liquid starts, it's actually coming on okay. Hopefully Louise is having the same luck. Just as I add this next little bit of liquid to it, I'm going to swap hands and give this a wee stir because my leeks are going down nicely, but they're on a very low heat over here. So again, we do have a little bit of cooking time in the oven though, so lovely. Don't want to neglect this sauce for too long. You could have your sauce made a little bit in advance. I just find that when you make a sauce like this in advance, dealing with it again, heating it up and stuff, and it's got usually forms a bit of a layer on the top of it and that, you know, so I think it's better to add it in when it's fresh. So I think it's going okay.
Looks good. I don't see any lumps in it.
No, neither do I. It's a fluke. It's a fluke. It knows you're recording tonight, Paula. That must be what.
That's good. That's good.
So it is. It's just one of those things where you have to stay by the pot. I know when we did the likes of risotto with the kids' cookery club, you know, it's a tricky one too because you're literally just stuck to the where you are, stirring and adding and stirring, and you can't really move away from the cooker for that type of cooking.
Do you do these classes for children, for school kids then, Sharon?
That's what we did before, yes, before lockdown, obviously, but then we moved it online. Yeah. So they tune in through Zoom now, but we used to do cooking, not as advanced as risotto now, because we used to have maybe a group of 12 at a time in school, you know, with very limited cookery resources and stuff like that. So we would do a bit of bread making and flatbreads outside and a bit of, you know, joint soup making and things. So a lot of...
What age of kids would you be teaching?
We go from P1, you know, mostly P1 to P7.
Right.
But the ones that join now online, some of them are a bit older. So we're doing a bit more, you know, because once they're in their own kitchen like that with all their own stuff, there's so much more we can do that we actually couldn't do before. So it's been a blessing, in fact. In some respects, I'm still happier out and about rather than...
Would you probably still do a few online ones whenever lockdown's over, would you?
Definitely would, because it's opened up a whole world of possibilities, and people from further away, some people's cousins have joined in that live in America, some people's cousins from England have joined in, you know, so there's no barriers then, you know, for...
This is it. And you can watch it from your own house and, you know...
Exactly. So there's no travelling for mum and dad to take you to places and pick you up and do all that stuff. You can work away. And then our cookery club makes the family dinner, you see, on a Monday night. So the parents are usually quite happy that the dinner's getting made at the same time. I mean, they're usually doing dishes probably to about 9 o'clock, but they're getting the dinner made.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
Sauce is thickening up. And it's great actually to be able to pass on nice traditional recipes like the likes of wheaten bread and shepherd's pie and things like that. You know, a lot of cookery for kids nowadays can be around, very much revolved around sweet things. And
yeah, that's right. I suppose it would be.
Sauce is good. How are you doing, Louise?
Well, mine doesn't look like yours.
Mine doesn't look like this either. So has it got lumps?
Oh God.
We've lost you, Louise.
Louise.
And we've lost your video as well.
She's maybe dropped something into the pot. Has she dropped her iPhone into the pot? I hope not.
Can you hear me at all?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Right, well, I don't know what I've done, but I've touched something and I've come off. So no, my sauce is very runny. It's not thick at all. So there's no lumps in it, but it's very runny. Can I save it in any way? I've got it turned up and I'm still stirring, but.
Okay, you're maybe going to need that corn flour in the end after. Okay, and you had plain flour, yeah?
Yes.
Butter, plain flour, and 600 ml of liquid?
Yes.
Right, okay. Okay, I'm not sure why then. The minute I poured the liquid in, it went very thick, very, very thick.
Yeah, you can see that.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering what has happened. What milk did you use?
I use skim milk.
Ah,
That's it.
that is our problem there.
Is that it?
It is. The skim milk is maybe not. Now, it doesn't matter though, because it should thicken up anyway, but I know that's what's potentially caused it. Now, I've used semi-skimmed, but I know that skimmed milk's a whole different ballgame.
Right, okay.
Right, let's see. Give it another wee minute or two. See if it thickens at all. I mean, as you go through it, there's no lumps even from the butter and the flour, no?
No, there's no lumps. It's nearly just like water, to be honest.
Right, okay.
Do you know what I'm going to do, Sharon? I'm going to leave and try and rejoin back in again, I think, so that I can see it. Do you think that would work?
Yes, try that, or maybe just put your video off, but do what you can. But I think you might have to abandon your sauce if it really is that watery. You might need to think of something else.
I might be able to, if you as you say, maybe just add, if I turn it off, I'll keep going with it, and then I'll turn it off and maybe try and add a wee bit of corn flour to thicken it up, maybe just.
You could do that, or again, if you don't want to waste any ingredients, but if you have other milk there, it might work better, although it should have worked just even with the stock. I've made this sauce before without any milk at all, just water. So I'm just wondering.
All right, okay.
You've left me with a question now. I'm maybe going to might have to Google that now. I'm just wondering what's the best way to remedy it for you, so that you don't, because we don't want to add something into all this lovely chicken and leeks and mushrooms, and then it's not going to work out, for the best. I wonder, should you take it off the heat and see if you can thicken it with the corn flour, but don't add it to anything yet until you've until you're satisfied that it's do you know what I mean, that it's going to.
Yes. Okay. Right. I'm gonna leave now and try and join back in.
Even join again.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay.
I'm going to pour the sauce then that I do have in.
Eve has asked, is semi-skimmed milk all right?
Oh, hello, you got away.
Sorry.
We need to find out about that skimmed milk, because I think.
Sorry.
Louisa's sauce should look, not dissimilar to this anyway, but so I'm just going to mix that in. I didn't even burn the bottom of the pot there, which is great.
No, Sharon, Eve has asked, is semi-skimmed milk all right? But that's what you used.
That's what I used. It was the skimmed milk that we seem to have had the problem with there.
Yeah. So semi-skimmed is probably okay. It is okay.
Semi-skimmed was fine. I was about to use almond milk there, only something stopped me, and I'm just wondering, do the different milks make it much of a difference or not? Now I've switched my heat off now, because otherwise that's going to go too thick on me. But as you can see, it looks nice and creamy. So what I'm going to do now is just quickly put my parsley and my salt and pepper in it. You're back, Louise. I wonder, can we get a look at your...
Okay. Can you see?
That'd be an idea.
Oh, no.
So it looks like slightly more liquid. So that was definitely only 300 of each.
Yeah, well, I was trying to double everything up, so maybe I've got it wrong just when I was doing it.
So
I'm going to take it off, and I'm going to try with a wee bit of corn flour. I think that's just what I'm going to do.
So use a wee bit of that liquid, then take it out, put the wee bit of liquid into a cup, mix it
Okay.
with the liquid that you're about to put back in. You know what I mean? Use
Right. Yes. Yes.
liquid.
Okay.
Try that.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just going to grab the parsley and the pepper for this.
What are you putting at the meeting with them other two Kayleys today as well?
Aye.
You didn't go back on them.
So I've my wee bit of parsley here and my salt and pepper. Now I'm going to check for seasoning here because, like I say, everybody's stock cubes could be a little bit different, and this could maybe do with a little bit more seasoning. I'm going to take the stalks off. This is the flat leaf.
I wouldn't bother. No worries.
Flat leaf parsley, so it's a wee bit more flavoursome than the curly parsley. Just looking at it here, might be a wee bit overbearing. I think if you can get thyme or lemon thyme would be lovely in that actually as well. You can still get these herbs obviously in the supermarket, but the thyme has pretty much gone now in the garden. The flat leaf parsley is still doing great though, so it's a good one to have.
Would you ever use dried herbs, or was that terrible?
Yeah, I use just those that we mixed herbs that I have there, and I've got into using that a bit more now, you know. So it's just a wee, and that's just thyme, actually thyme, parsley, and sage and basil. So it's always good to have those in backup for a wee bit of flavour, but you can't really beat the
Fresh, yeah.
I don't think so. I like fresh herbs now.
Sharon, you see the thyme? I've got the thyme here.
Oh, great.
Yeah, how do you're not meant to put the whole thing in, do you just pull those little leaves off?
Yeah, you literally get it by the stalk, and it's a woody stalk, so this is soft stalk. It's a woody one, and literally just pinch and pull the leaves off.
Okay.
Like that. So yeah, you don't put the stalks. I could put the stalks of this parsley in here, no problem, but the thyme comes from a woodier plant, so it'll not break down, you know, so it'll be almost like a wee woodiness to it. So I'm going to just mix the parsley through, put some pepper in because I know that's going to go well with this, and then I'm just going to check it for salt. It's tasty, but I'm going to give it a wee bit. That's optional, you know. That is optional. And that's us. I'm going to put that in the casserole dish now, and we're going to top it. I'm going to top it with the crumble, and I'm going to pop it in the oven. So I'll just go back to my station here and just fill her up. So yeah, that quantity is filling. It's going to be a family dish, you know. It's going to feed 4 or 5 people, to be honest. That quantity. So that does work. That mix of 300 of your meat and around 300 or 400 of your vegetables, depending on your vegetables. The root vegetables are going to hold a lot more of their shape. The mushrooms and the leeks disappear a wee bit, you know, so they're going to shrink down. Just saying there, the camera is on the dog. Not show you my sink at the minute. So there we go. That radiator's on, is that why you're there? So now we've just got our crumble, so we're just going to put it on the top. I'm not going to add any more salt or anything because of my parmesan, so you could even mix in a wee bit of the thyme with the crumble topping as well. And I would serve this. Do you know, you could actually have some potatoes and stuff with this because the wee crumble's just giving it a wee crunch, isn't it? Like at the top, it's not actually giving you any real carbs or anything there. So a few wee baby boiled spuds and maybe some nice broccoli or something like that would go well on the side. And just cut through that creaminess. So that's really it. So the quantities I think are just right for that sort of dish. And in fact, it didn't need to be any deeper than that. So that's our end product. Now I'll put it in the oven, but again, I'm probably going to put it in there for maybe 15 or 20 minutes. I want it to go nice and crispy on the top and just make sure that it keeps. But you could make it like this and leave it and then reheat it from this, you know, so you could have it ready in advance. Or
Can you freeze it like that, Sharon?
What's that now?
Can you freeze it like that?
I would cook it. I would cook the crumble before freezing it. Actually, I would cook. Yeah, I wouldn't freeze it with the butter like that. I would have it cooked into the crumble first and then freeze the whole thing. But it's not going to take much cooking at this stage. So, but if you did let it cool down and you kept it refrigerated, then it's going to take a wee bit longer in the oven. You're probably looking 40 minutes to bring that all back up to the right temperature because you want it nice and bubbling, you know, for the chicken.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
When you cook it now, Sharon, will that have a nice brown top on it, or?
yes, that'll go nice and brown. I'll send through a wee photograph.
I was gonna say, could you take a wee picture of it when it comes out?
When it comes out of the oven, yeah, I'll take a wee picture when it comes out. There would be no point in us waiting on that.
And send it to Anne Marie, and we can get it sent out to everybody. And also, I'm recording this tonight, so I don't know if your other videos went up on our YouTube.
I don't.
No, they didn't work out right.
I had said to Anne-Marie if she wanted, what we could do with the recipes that we have done is that I could do quite quick tutorials on those for anybody that wanted to see how to make them. So rather than all the interaction between people and that, we could just cut straight to a quick tutorial for the
We'll see what the request is for that. But in the meantime, this one should work out fine because I'm recording it myself. And I'll get it sent to Anne-Marie and she can send it out to participants. And also with a photograph of yours, if you take a picture of that when it comes out of the oven.
Yes, if you edit it even then, you can trim it down and then put the photograph in at the end. So I'll do that. And hopefully you'll have a wee go at that. What's on the menu next week then? Do we...
what is it next week?
Is it the soup next week?
Is it the soups and breads? I think. Could be. I forget. Honest to God, I should know.
Well, that's my speciality, so we can do something very nice next week. So I'll get the recipes out a lot earlier this week then, because I have quite a stock of soup and bread recipes, so I can get that out a bit earlier and people could choose. Then I could make a couple of different ones, but Louise, don't you panic, you don't have to make them all. You choose which one would suit you, in case I can just see all the pots going at once. Did your sauce get sorted out?
No, I'm still stirring. I've had the cornflour. I think I'm about to chuck it out and start again with the sauce.
You might be, you see, rather than ruin all those other lovely ingredients, if you know what I mean.
I know.
You might be better. But do you have other milk in the house?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Okay, I would try it with different milk, and you know what, I would just try it with that quantity rather than doubling it up. I would try it with that quantity and just add a little bit of extra milk so it's not just as thick towards the end, and it'll cover everything that you've got there anyway, you know. Yeah. Try that. Sorry that sauce didn't work out now.
No, it was my own fault.
No, hopefully it'll work out, Louise.
I was trying to cut a few calories going into it.
No, you're better just to skip dessert or something. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
Sharon.
That was excellent as usual. You're always so good at this.
Oh no, thank you, and I really appreciate Patricia joining there.
Thanks, Patricia. That was very good of you.
Yes, thank you.
And we'll see you all next week then.
Yes, hopefully so. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
week, everybody. Okay.
Yeah. Bye.